So my original plan for this week was to actually show the installation of my south-facing panels, but last week the weather was dreadful, so there's been something of a delay on that front. So I thought I would fill this week with a topic that keeps cropping up both with my neighbours and also in the comments. I keep getting asked, does adding green technology, for example, solar panels and heat pumps and all that, does it add value to your home? So this seems to be a concern for my neighbours in particular whenever they ask me, oh, does it add value to my home if I want to put solar panels on? And I say, well, I don't really know the answer. I think there's been something of a debate about whether or not it does add value. And I've always maintained that for certain people, I'm sure it would. Like for me and Kat, for example, if we were to want to move and to buy another house, I think if there was already a heat pump and solar panels on that property, that would certainly encourage me to purchase that house over one that didn't have those technologies. And I think for a lot of other people that would also be true, but perhaps not for everyone. So I thought, well, surely there must be some sort of resource that I can find to at least shed a bit more answer on this particular question. Actually, I had a look on the internet and I found Rightmove do an annual report they have done for the last 2 or 3 years. And their 2023 report, the Greener Homes Report, actually answers that question quite nicely. So they performed a survey on a number of people and actually got some proper answers for this. So this is the 2023 report. I encourage you to read this. I'll put a link in the description. They also have a 2022 and a 2024 report, but this particular one concentrates on adding value to your home as one of the main topics. So I thought this was the most useful one to show you. It's quite a long report. There's a whole bunch of topics here. So you can see these are the main topics covered in this report. And yeah, it goes on quite a bit. I'm going to just pick a few salient points of this report to show you, but let's go back up to the top for now. If you don't want to read this whole report, OVO has actually done a nice summary of the report. I'll put a link to the in the description for this as well. And this is just a much shorter version, a sort of summary of the salient points. So yeah, go and check that out if you'd prefer to read a little bit more of a sort of potted summary rather than the full report. But yeah, I'm going to just take you through a couple of interesting points that I found in this particular report, and hopefully it will give you some sort of feel for whether or not you would believe that green technology would add value to a home. And obviously there's more to adding this sort of technology to a home than just adding value. A prime motivation for me and Kat is to reduce our carbon footprint. That's definitely one of our primary concerns. Saving money was lower on the list, but of course it is a benefit that you can't ignore. But the vast majority of people seem to be motivated by the financials rather than the environmental aspects. So, in fact, this report shows that exact same thing. So let me just jump to the relevant section and we'll see what it says. So the main way that people monitor energy efficiency for a home is obviously the EPC rating. Now I realise that the EPC rating is something of a blunt instrument when it comes to energy efficiency. Really, you should do proper things like heat loss calculations and all of that stuff. But so it's the best we've got. And so this report concentrates on value in terms of value of your property in terms of your EPC, and whether if you change your EPC rating, how does that affect the value of your home. So they discovered that for changing your EPC rating from a D to a C, you can potentially increase the value of your home by about £11,000 or 3%. So given the average house price in the UK in 2023, 3% was about £11,000. So that's not bad, obviously. But if you could improve it from E to C rather than just D to C, then you could add 7%, which is £26,000. And if you could improve your EPC from F to C, then you could see an increase of 15%, or about £55,700 on the value of your property. So it seems that you can, if this is to be believed, that would be a pretty significant increase in the value of your property. So if I hop over to the OVO summary of that report, they actually go into a little bit more detail. So they cover the same points about changing your EPC rating, and they in fact include a few possible routes in order to get from F to C. So they say in order to go from an EPC of F to E, you could, for example, increase the loft insulation in your loft, and you could add cavity wall insulation, and they estimate that that would cost you about £3,600. And then you could go further and add a solar panel system. They say 10 solar panels with no battery would cost about £6,300. That feels about right to me. I personally would add a battery as well, but it's not essential, obviously. And they reckon that combining that with adding extra insulation would require a total investment of just shy of £10,000, and that would get you from an F to a D in combination. And then if you wanted to get up to a C, you could then add an air source heat pump, which they reckon would cost about £5,000, including the bus grant. So yeah, that feels probably about right to me. So £7,500 for the bus grant plus the £5,000, £12,500 for a heat pump install. Yeah, it feels about right to me. So in combination of all those three things, the extra insulation, adding solar panels, and a heat pump, they estimate would give you would require an investment of about £15,000. And according to the Rightmove report, that would increase the value of your home by about 15%, or roughly £55,700, given the average house price in the UK in 2023. So an investment of £15,000 giving you a return of £56,000, best part of. That seems like a pretty good way to go, if you ask me. So yeah, that was the headline figure, really. It depends on whether you believe this or not. Personally, I think it's not unreasonable. I don't know whether I would believe that increasing your EPC from F to a C would improve the value of your house by quite that much, but that even so, that's even if it's a fraction of that extra investment seems to be well worthwhile in my opinion. Now for us, our EPC was already a B when we started adding all of these improvements. Now I can imagine that you've got somewhat of a law of diminishing returns when it comes to adding further improvements to your house to increase it beyond a C. So given that we were already a B, we're almost certainly an A plus by now, given that we've added so many solar panels and everything else. We have probably not added anywhere near this much. Obviously, we may have added, maybe £10,000 if we're to say going from a D to a C, one rating. Going from you could imagine that going from a B to an A might be a similar level. Well, that's nowhere near what we've invested in our home. But as I mentioned at the beginning, that's certainly not our main motivation. But it certainly doesn't hurt, right? It all adds to it. Now, I know I'm probably going to get comments from people saying, oh, you shouldn't worry about the financials at all. It should all be about the carbon. Now, I completely appreciate that. And the problem is whenever I tell people that I am not necessarily financially motivated and that actually I do care about the environmental aspects a lot, they don't seem to believe me, because I spend a lot more time talking about the financials than I do about the carbon part of things. But that's because most people are financially motivated, and in fact that's certainly borne out by this report. When if you scroll a bit further down, you can see in here they actually tell you what people find most important in terms of whether or not they should add green technology to their properties. So for most people, they want to save money on their energy bills. That's entirely reasonable. That's certainly partly our motivation as well. To make my home better insulated, well, I guess that's part of saving money on your energy bills. To reduce my carbon footprint, you see, 35% in comparison to 78% wanting to save money on their bills. So this is why whenever I talk about carbon and the environmental impact of this stuff, I only get about half the number of views compared to when I talk about the financials. And this is why, because clearly people are more motivated by the financials than they are by the environmental aspect, and that's fine. I completely understand. I'm not judging at all. But in honesty, I don't really care what people's motivations are. Getting green technology will ultimately help reduce the environmental impact as well anyway. So who cares what route people take to getting this stuff installed? It's all good as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really mind what your motivation is. Just get it done. And the fact that it looks likely that it's going to add value to your home as well, so much the better. So there you go, just a little bit of food for thought there when you're talking to your neighbours about whether or not you should get green technology installed on your house and whether or not it'll make any impact on your the value of your home or not. So yeah, that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed that and found it interesting. If you've not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. That will really help. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one with more news about my extra solar install. It's all very exciting. So yeah, hopefully I'll have that for you next week. Bye for now.